Hello everyone, today I will be doing a swatch video for the Tracy 24 eyeshadow palette in Essential, Naturals, and Dramatic Bows. And I will be showing all 24 shades that are in this palette. I'm going to start from left to right on the first row and the second row. From Marshalls, it's by the company Beauty Concepts. I paid $2.99, so we're going to test out these wipes to see if they're good to use for swatch. M48 Smudger brush. So I will be using this to basically do the swatch video. So let's get started. So I'm positioning my arm in view. So going in with the first shade, which is a white shade, and it looks like it has shimmer textures to it, but it may be a matte, but it looks like it has like a pearl element to it. It's very sheer, so I think it would be great for inner corner highlight or to highlight your brow bones. So that is the first shade. I'm going to go in with the next shade, which is a very light beige with a brown undertone. This one I feel is very naked to my skin tone. It's also very sheer, in my opinion. So these shades definitely, it depends on your skin tone whether you will be able to visually see any pigmentation from it. So that is the second shade. It definitely shows like a light beige in the pan, but when you apply it, it has that light. It definitely has that light beige color, but it's not, you don't really see a lot of, it just looks like a very cool tone, matte light beige on my skin. It doesn't have any warm elements to it. The next shade is I would say a light bronzy shimmer shade. This is a very nice, I would say like almost like a champagne type gold. Very pretty. Definitely can be used as a highlight or all over the lid color. So that's a very beautiful shade. Almost looks like probably like a white bronzy. I wanted to say white gold, but I don't think it's quite white gold because there's no yellow tone to it. It's very like a cool bronzy champagne type color. Very beautiful again. In my opinion, the next shade is I think like a light medium tone bronzy, not very bronzy, but very shimmery nude, like a nude shimmer color. So again, that's a very, I feel like it has like a peachy pink undertone. Again, another, more like a, I would say like more like a slight shimmer, but like kind of frosty texture to it. Definitely think it's pretty. Can also be used as a all over the lid color. The next shade is gonna be, this is definitely like a rose gold shimmer. So you have some shimmers and I think you have some satins in this top row. So here is the next shade, which is definitely like a rose gold type shimmer. This is more metallic-y. So I'm gonna tell you the one that I think is more metallic and more heavily pigmented. This is the second shade in that row. The first shade was this color. This is the next color. Very beautiful. This is no primer. There's no primer on my arm. So these are the actual swatches without any primer applied to my skin. And that is a very beautiful pink rose gold shade. I really like that color. The next shade is, I would say, a copper bronze shade. Again, very metallic, same formula. Well, they're all the same formula, but the same type of texture as the last shade. So this is definitely a copper brown shade. So far you have the first 6 shades in the top row from left to right. So that's a very beautiful, I think, copper brown's color. They definitely have this like full type of texture to them. So they're shimmery, but they're also more like a metallic, almost frosty type texture. Not just regular shimmer, but just very, almost basically foiled type texture to them. So again, that's that copper browns. So far I'm very impressed with the full, I'll say foiled, metallic-y type shimmer shades that are in this palette. The next shade is, I think I would say like a satin, more of a satin finish. But it's also I would say a regular gold shade. So it's like a white gold type shade. Again, very pretty. So I think I'm very impressed with the shimmer, the shimmery satin full type shades. The mattes are very, I think they're sheer and you definitely have to build them up. But the shimmers, the full type shades, you won't need much to build them up. Again, I think very impressive. And for $6.99, that's not bad. And you can make any palette work. Some palettes may require you to put in more work for it, but it's not to say you can't make it work. Unless it just absolutely is without any pigmentation that makes it unable to allow you to work that palette. So let's go in with the next shade, which again I think is a type of rose gold. I'll say this is more of a satin, a type of satin finish. And I think it's gonna look identical to this color here. So this is the next shade. The first shade had more of a gold, this is almost kind of duochromish. This one has the same color, but it's more of a pink. I don't see like any gold that's in this one compared to this first one. This one kind of have a gold shift to it, almost duochromy. So that is that. And the satins, which I call them satin finishes, they are shimmery, but they're more subtle compared to the more full shimmer finishes. So that's that shade. And so far I have swatched 7 of the shades from the top row left to right. The next shade is it looks like a regular mauve pink. I think again like a satin finish. So this shade I think will go well with the, if you just want to use it like an inner corner highlight, or underneath one of the more full shimmers that is in this palette. Again, these satins are more subtle in this palette. This is definitely a palette I would use, and I think it's good that Marshall carries, I think, affordable palettes, because not everyone has the money or may not want to spend high amounts of money on palettes, so it's good that there are alternatives available to anyone who want to have color on their eyes but don't want to spend a ton of money for that palette. The next shade is more of a darker pink, and almost like I want to say again, like a champagne type color to it. Again, it's very impressive. So far the pinks, they look very similar, but then there's some differences among the pinks. This pink has like a peachy pink type shimmer satin finish to it. Definitely, I think probably more of a pearl type finish. So this is probably more satin finish. This is more like a pearl finish. And these three, I think, are more foiled, have a more foil type look to them. So you could definitely amp up these shades in this palette. Again, you may have to put some work into some of the shades more than others, but again, it's workable. So we're going to go in with the next to the last shade, which is a cool tone bronze shade. Hopefully you all can see that. So it definitely has, it seems like it has a white gold finish to it. Definitely looks like a pearl finish like the last one. But I think pretty. So the top row doesn't really have, but I think maybe one or two mattes in the whole row. The rest of them are, I would say, shimmery, satin, and pearl finishes. And some of the shimmers have full finishes that are more, like again, more metallic in their finishes. Like these are very foiled looking. And these are very pearl satin type finishes. And this is definitely like a pearl satin. So again, I think it is great for a natural look for those who love more of the nude, natural tones. This is definitely a day type palette. And even though this is not called a day palette, I call it a day and night palette, maybe volume 2, because they do have a day and night, I think like a day and night smoky palette. And I have that one, which I will be doing a first impression review for that one. And let's go into the last shade, which is a dark, more like a dark satin or pearl finish, I think. So it's definitely on the cool tone, it's a cool tone pearl shade. This would be beautiful for the outer crease or all over the lid for contrast. Again, a very unique color too, because even though it looks like a regular brown in the palette, It looks really, when you swatch it, has a really, it has like a shift to it. So it doesn't come across very brown. More like a cool tone, almost like a duochrome shift with some pink, with like more dark coppery brown, but on a cool tone level, if that makes sense. Because on the brush, the pigment definitely looks brown, but when it's swatched, it gives off a different type of shade. So these are the first 12 shades from the palette of the Essential Naturals. So these are all the shade colors. Very pretty. And then we'll get into the second row, which are the dramatic bows next. So again, these are the top row 12 shades, starting from left to right. They are all very beautiful shades in this top row. And so it looks like there's only one matte shade, which is that light beige matte shade, the second shade that's in this row. So for any of us with a more darker tone, my skin tone, or even a few tones before my skin tone, and any skin tones after my skin tone, would need to pull out a transition shade to use with these shimmer, satin, frost, pearl type shades to make those colors, make these shimmers really stand out. Because the top row only have one matte, which is that second shade. But they're all very impressive, I think. Except for that transition shade can be used, but it just depends on your skin tone. It may not show very well, but definitely the more on the foiled shimmers, like these first three, I think are more forward shimmer type shades, are definitely gorgeous. And then you have more of a satin pearl type finishes as the shades in the palettes exist. So you have something to play around with in different cool tones and warm tones to play with. So that is those 12 shades. So now we're going to get started with the dramatic bows portion of this 24-hour eyeshadow palette. And basically these are the 12 shades that we will be looking at from left to right. So they're more the colorful portion of this palette. So we're going to get started with the first purple, I would say more of the purple, I think purple satin or pearl finish. And make sure my arm is in focus here. So it's definitely, I would say, more of a satin finish. So there is some sheen to it, and it's not heavily pigmented, but there is some flush of color. But I think this shade is buildable. So that is the first shade in that Dramatic Bold palette. So it definitely looks like an eggplant, not as dark, but a type of eggplant, purple satin shade that has a cool tone to it. Almost looks like it could be a nice blush. So I'm just cleaning off my brush. I'm going to go in with the next shade that has a more, looks kind of burgundy, like a burgundy type brown shade. Definitely has some copper undertone to it. Trying to make sure I got my arm in the right view so you all can see that. That is a beautiful shade. Yes. I really like this shade. It's definitely it's like a copper with some brown, almost like red undertone. Has a more of a foiled shimmer type finish to it. I'm just trying to position my arm where you all can see that very well. So that is the second shade. And it definitely has this gold, like I said, this copper gold shift to it, which I think is very, very pretty. Some of these shades have like this duochrome effect to it. It's very, very pretty shades. So that's, so far on that row, that is one of my favorite to me. I just want to make sure I get off the pigmentation before I go in with the next swatch. So the next shade is more of a cool tone. It looks like a duochrome. I feel like there's a duochrome effect to this also, but it's more on the, I think on the gray prism. Yeah, this is definitely, it has a shift of some type of white gold in it. If you're able to see it, I'm not even in focus. It definitely has this gray, there's like some slight gold hue to it, but it's definitely cool tone, like a steel gray shade. So that would be beautiful for like an all over eyelid or crease. outer crease shade, or crease shade if you want to go bold in your crease area. So that is definitely has the same finish, like a full shimmer type finish. I'm very impressed with the full pigments there are in this palette. To me, by far, it's the most outstanding of the textures, finishes I should say, from this palette. So we're gonna continue to go with these swatches. Had to reposition my camera. So those are the first three shades from the Dramatic Bold portion of the palette. You have this nice eggplant satin finish. Then you have this nice coppery, it's almost like a copper red shimmer with a full tight finish. A nice gray shimmer with a full tight finish. So we're going to go in with the fourth shade, which is a straight gold color. Now this gold is quite on the, I would say more on the sheer side. But like I say, I think these colors are buildable. This is definitely, I would say, a satin. More of a satin, almost like a slight pearl. But it has that kind of, almost the finish of the last two. But when I build it up, it looks like similar to the last two shades. So that's that gold shade. Again, I think it's pretty. And you can make these colors definitely build up, which is a good thing because you definitely want to invest in a palette that has buildable shades in them. In case you want to go more sheer than other shades, or if you just want to slightly build it up to want to go completely bold. So I think so far these shades do that. They allow you to build up the color. And using the makeup brush wipe, I really like it because it does keep your brush slightly damp. But when I use the makeup brush wipe, I swipe my brush over several times, but then I go over to a regular tissue and try to remove some of that moisture from the wipe to be able to swipe the other color. So let's go in with the fifth shade, which is a dark, I would say like a dark copper, bronzy color. So if you can see on the brush what it looks like. So we're going to apply it here. Yeah, that's a nice color also. So far I am impressed. I am impressed with these. It's almost like a blackened plum shade. Definitely with purple undertone. I always feel like there's a touch of gold. Touch of gold that's mixed in these shades. So that's the first, sorry not the first, but this is the fifth shade from left to right in the Dramatic Bold palette. So that color is definitely beautiful. It's like definitely like a black and purple. Not quite intense on the blackened aspect of the tone, but it definitely have a darkened plum type with some hint of gold. I feel like it has. Some of these have like shift to them, like however you tend to move it, you'll see like there's shifts that are in them. So again, a very beautiful color in my opinion. So we're gonna take off that color. So you can see you can play around with this palette using shimmers from shimmers, satins, oily pearl type finishes from the top row. The top row again does not have but one matte shade, but you could play if you just want to have a all shimmer look with no matte as a transition shade or a satin as a transition shade in your crease. You could just play with all these different shimmers. They all have different finishes to them, which is, I think, very, very pretty. So we're going to go in and get the next color, which is a emerald green, and in my tutorial I used this color on my lower lash line, my bottom lash line, to give that pop of color, that contrast. Yeah, so this one also, see, I feel like they have like this gold undertone. Like there's some kind of gold shift that are in these colors. Or it could just be how the light is hitting it. Do you see that color? It's absolutely stunning. And for $6.99, this is really good. I mean, to me, I feel like it does mark it up with some of the other higher end brands that are out there. Some pigments may be a little bit patchier than others, but so far these shimmers that are in this palette are very outstanding. I feel like that one kind of plummy gray shade that I use in as my transition crease shade in my tutorial has some slight patchiness in it, but it wasn't a bad pigmentation. But we will be swatching it on my arm to see how that color will look. Because sometimes when you swatch things on your arm, it's different when you swatch them on your eyes. So they could be the same on your eyes, or they could be some subtle differences compared to your arms and your eye shade color. But pretty much it won't be too much. I think it won't be too much difference, because usually our skin are the same color. Like the sun would kiss our skin in the same way, unless you're wearing sunglasses or something that blocks colors from from your full face getting tanned. So let's go in with this next shade, which is very unique. So it's this shade here. It's almost, I don't know how to describe it. I won't say anything until I swatch it, because in the pan, it looks like a type of bronze, like a taupey bronze color. That's what I would say, like a taupe bronze. But it has this, again, like a white gold type finish to it. You can see that. So it definitely has a taupey color. It looks taupey bronze, cool tone in the pan. But when you swatch it, it looks like a shift of like a cool gold bronze color. Which I think is, again, another beautiful color that you can apply all over the lids, your inner corner, highlight, a brow bone shade, an outer crease shade, lower lash line shade. A lot of these shades can be, I think, used for multi-purposes. And that's, I think, is the beauty of palettes. You don't have to just stick to one type of look. You can use these colors in all types of variety. I wish I had used these in the tutorial. But I think with my palettes that I show, first impression reviews, I will go back and do other looks from those palettes, because I wanna be able to show that you can have variation in these palettes and not just a standard look. You can play around with the colors that are available to you. And I just like to play with my palettes. Like, I want to get more use in them, not just show them in one tutorial, but try to show them in other ways that I use them for other looks. So the next shade looks like a straight up dark plum, I think matte, but it may be a satin. So let's swatch and see what we get. I think this is more of a satin, because there is a sheen to it. So this is a color you could definitely use in your transition shade, your crease, your outer crease shade. So that is a very nice dark plummy shade, like very dark. Has a dark undertone to it. Definitely purple undertone. It has that dark blackened shift to it. I feel like swatch videos are so relaxing. I don't know why. Because maybe because I'm just applying color to my arm. I'm not thinking about any particular look. Whereas most of the tutorials I do, I just go in and start applying color. I don't ever have a pre-planned look that I'm trying to aim for. And sometimes they tend to be smoky, because I like smoky eye looks. So again, those are the first 7 shades. Actually 8. The first 8 shades. I miscounted just now. So I am very impressed. So if you all like what you see and you think you will want to try this palette, again, I purchased this from Marshalls, but I have also seen them at TJ Maxx. Or you could try to find this palette online. Definitely try to find it in Marshalls or TJ Maxx. And if you don't have it at your local Marshalls or TJ Maxx, definitely see if you have a family member, a friend, someone who may live in the area that has it. And if your particular location doesn't have it and you like what you see from this video thus far, and you can't, track down the palette, I definitely say don't buy it online unless you live in a country that doesn't have a Marshall or TJ Maxx. Try to find it on the ground if you can, because that way, I've seen some prices while I was looking up to see if Ellen Tracy had an actual cosmetic website that I couldn't really locate one, and people was online charging this palette way more than I think it should be charged for the palette. And Marshall has a retail price tag at a regular price of $12. So at the most, you'll want to only pay $12 online if you see this palette, but definitely try to find it on the ground in the store and pay $6.99. Save some money basically for it. So let's go into the next shade, the next 4 last shades in this palette. This is the color that I use in my crease as a transition shade, my transition crease shade, which is a cool tone, I think gray, but it has like this smoky purple hue to it. Definitely a very unique shade, and I think do an eye look with the shade next to it will make it really beautiful. It definitely has, like, I would say it's definitely like a gray, like a smoky gray with like some type of plum undertone to it. So it's definitely, I would say, a matte shade from this palette. So that's the shade I use in my tutorial. I'm surprised they didn't have a transition matte brown or a warm type of brown shade in this palette. But if you're gonna go bold, I guess they're gonna choose other shades than the standard, I think, transition shades that some of us would tend to use when we want to create a crease shade. So just cleaning off this brush. So this pigment is, this shade has a lot of pigment. When I used the Wet n Wild large eyeshadow brush in the tutorial, and I had forgot to, usually I clean my eyeshadow brushes right after I'm done with doing a tutorial. I would clean them so it doesn't stain the bristles, but I had went for, I would say, a good week and not wash that brush, and it basically literally stained the white bristles that is in that Wet n Wild large brush. And even right now, as I'm trying to get this last color off this brush, it is very, like, there's a lot of pigment color that gets caught in this brush. So you want to be, this is like a warning to be aware that you want to clean your brushes ASAP after you use this particular shade. So let's go in with this blue shade that I use for my full eyelid shade. I don't feel like the camera did the justice, because in the palette it looks really, I'm going to move my arm back so you can see that if the camera focuses. Right now it's not focusing on that. But it looks like a navy blue type shade. And when I swatch it, you could see some blue hue. It's definitely a matte shade, but it's not as heavily pigmented as it looks. I think it's pigmented, but it's not as heavy blue pigmented as you see in the palette. So that's why I think when I was applying it with the last shade, it looks like the color just blended right into each other, because it's not very pigmented as it looks in the palette itself. But I think with some of the other colors, you will probably see that blue pop out a little bit more. To me, it doesn't even look like a navy blue. It almost looks like a light black shade. So far, those are the first 10 shades from left to right. I would say the last 4 shades are definitely matte. So again, these dark shades you want to wash your brushes ASAP when you're done applying. If you don't have time to clean your brushes after you do your makeup, because if you're getting ready for the morning, like you're going to work, or you have some event or something you gotta go to, or you're just going to meet up, or just going out for the day, and you don't have time to wash your brushes afterward, you want to make sure you soak your brushes or just really thoroughly clean them, because these pigments will get in your brushes and it would take some time to really wash it out. But I think if you're using brushes that are more either black or brown bristles, then you may not notice it, but definitely if you're using light colored bristles in your brushes, you will see how these dark shades will definitely blacken or darken up your eyeshadow brush, is what I'm saying. So definitely be aware of that. So let's go in with the second to last shade, and that was the shade I initially wanted to use in my transition crease shade. But then when I was swatching it with my finger on my hand, I wasn't seeing a lot of I felt like there wasn't a lot of pigmentation coming from it. So I decided not to use it, because it didn't. This looks like a army green. I would definitely say there's green undertones to it. So, but it also looks still like a grayish tone. So like a gray army green, but I'm just gonna call it army green because that's what it reminds me of. A army green color. To other people, it may just look like a regular gray matte shade, but it looks like some type of army green. Definitely cool toned. So So again, don't be afraid to use certain colors in your looks, because we have to be willing to step out of our comfort zones. And I think there's never a color that doesn't look well on anyone. Like, color looks good. So you see that shade? Definitely like an army green. Very unique looking shade. And this brush does very well, I think, with applying color. And when I bought this brush from Hot Look, and I think it was labeled as a smudger brush, but I wonder if it's like a smaller, like, eyeshadow brush. Well, it could have been a small eyeshadow brush, but it looks like I think a smudger brush that you smudge in your, like, your lash line, the colors. So that's that shade. And now we're going to get into the last shade. I really like this brush. I don't own a lot of Morphe brushes. I remember I bought I think like a natural hair bristle brush set from Morphe on Hot Look, and then I have some brushes, some of the gunmetal brushes that I was watching Manny MUA video on his recommendation of his favorite Morphe brushes. So I pick out some of those that he recommended when I saw them on Hot Look, and I have some few other I think type of brushes that they're very inexpensive. And if you go on Hot Look, I think you will get a good deal on the brushes that are available. So definitely, if you love Morphe, be watching out for Hot Look. Definitely sign up for the newsletter so you can, or create a login so you could definitely follow their events, because Morphe is often on Hot Look. FYI. So let's go in with the last shade, which is I would say a medium tone purple. Looks like a medium tone purple satin finish. So that is that purple. My camera focuses. So it definitely has a frost finish. So I would say this is like a purple frost shade. So these are the jewel, I call them jewels because they do remind me of different jewel. So these are the 12 Dramatic Bows shades from the Ellen Tracy Essential Naturals and Dramatic Bows palette. I call it the 2-in-1 palette because essentially it is like you get two palettes in one whole palette. So this from left to right. These are the shades. So I think very beautiful finishes to them. And again, this is with no primer. So this is basically what you get from this palette. No primer. And again, I did these swatches. I did these swatches with the Morphe M48. Morphe M4. Let me get my arm out of the way. The Morphe, if it focuses. Doesn't want to focus. But it's definitely the Morphe M408 Smudger brush. So basically, if you all want to use this brush to apply these colors, I think this is a really good brush to use. And it's basically like a shortened form of an eyeshadow large brush. A large eyeshadow brush, but I think it is a smudger. That's how it was labeled when I bought it. Again, these are the 12 shades. So again, I'm impressed with this palette. There's nothing. The matte shades could be, I would say, a little bit better in this palette, but it's not bad. I mean, you could definitely build them up. I do think if you build them up with some of these jeweled full finishes for these particular shades from this palette, that you could create a very nice look with them. Trying to get my autofocus to show you all those shades so you can see the finishes. So that is the swatch video for all 24 shades from this, again, Tracy 24 eyeshadow palette in Essential Naturals and Dramatic Bows. If you have any questions, please leave them below. And again, thank you for watching. Bye.